Okay, this video is about the add-on TellMeWhen, and I'm recording this as I go, so you're going to hear my keyboard strokes, you're going to hear my mouse clicks, and I'm probably going to mumble and fucking stutter and shit, but here we go. This add-on is one that lets you make your own kind of bars here. So in this case, I've made it so that it's a rotation bar, and there's a lot of functionality in this, and I don't think a lot of people really use it to its full potential. I mean, I think a lot of people just use it more or less like this. But it has great reactivity, and an example of which is as ret, when I have 3 stacks of this buff, it lets me cast a flash of light instantly, and I made it so that when I get those 3 stacks it pops up here instead of being there all the time, or if you want to watch on the upper right. And a lot of the veteran players probably won't need this. They probably just have a good intuitive understanding of their class, and they kind of know just by playing how long the cooldown's left or whatever. So this is those people like me that like to, maybe have some visual aid or for PvE where there is a set rotation. So I'm gonna show you the settings for this add-on, and I'm gonna go through and do it myself, so you can kind of make sure you get all the settings. And I'll post screenshots of this below too. So first we type TellMeWhen to bring up this option, and there by default there will be a 4x1 bar right here, but we'll just make a new one for now. So we come here and add a new group, and this is what you'll see when you first bring the add-on up. Okay, now for now let's just make it a 1 button thing. So we'll come over here to columns and just bring that down to 1, and you can scale it up or however big you want it. I'm just going to bring these off to the side so they don't distract us too much. And I do have some notes on the other screen which I'm kind of looking at, but more or less I know how to do this. And I don't really read any guide on how to do any of this stuff, just experimenting. So, if you can think about it or you have an idea, just go ahead and try and figure it out. So first, for the rotation, we're going to come over here and we're going to see all these options, and we're interested in spell cooldowns. So click on that option. And here we'll choose the spells that we want to check. So we're going to type in order of priority, or the buttons that you want to know are up first. Now this is just before Mists of Pandaria is coming out. I have absolutely no idea what the rotation is for ret. I just reactivated, so if I do something wrong, feel free to call me an idiot in the comments. This is just kind of a proof of concept video. So for now we're going to put in Templar's Verdict. If you've never used this add-on, it'll come over here on the side, and it's pretty hard to get the wrong spell. As long as it's highlighted like it is here, that's probably the one you want. There might be more below. Just use the highest ranking one. So we have Templar's Verdict. Make sure there's the semicolon after that. Let's say we want to check Crusader Strike next. Then Judgment. And finally Exorcism. And you can go on for as long as you want. I know classes that maybe have more buttons, there probably like 10 things you need to check. But for now we'll just do this. Power check, we're going to click this. Oh, maybe we're not. Also, side note, after you've typed in your spells, especially if it's a long list, make sure you push enter to save it. Otherwise you'll do what I just did and have to type it again. Hopefully you're not making a YouTube video at the time, so don't make an idiot out of yourself. Enter, there we go. Okay. We want to check power, mostly for Templar's Verdict. Well, actually, solely for Templar's Verdict, because that's the only one that actually requires power. If you're watching this and you don't know what I'm talking about, the powers is something new they've added since Kata, and each class kind of has their own. For Paladins, it's a Holy Power, which is in the upper left here, but you don't need to worry about that for now. So here, let's check both usable and unusable, because I like to see it in the corner, even if I can't use it right away. But we'll bring the opacity down to about 20%. And none of this will update until we actually enable and exit out of this menu. So for now, just kind of follow my instructions, and later you can check on it. So we've got usable and unusable, and you can set this whatever you want. If you want to be, barely there, you can go around 10%. I like to stay around 20%, that's just me. And now we're going to show timer and show global cooldown. That's just so that you'll see the tick of the global cooldown go around. I don't like it so much when it's just flashing from one thing to the next, and I have no idea if I should wait a moment or not. Okay, so that's all we have to do for this screen. You can, if you want, you can experiment with some of these other things. That's totally up to you. Next, we're going to go down to conditions. And these are kind of if-then statements if you're familiar with programming. But we're going to click Add a Condition. We're going to spell cooldown. And we're going to put in Templar's Verdict. And I'm not sure if this is the best way to do it, but it works for me, and it hasn't gone wrong yet, so we'll just kind of go by this. Templar's Verdict, okay, enter, and we want to leave the operator at equals. There's all different kinds of things which you can play with, but for now we'll leave it as equals. And we'll leave the slider on the left so that the spell will alert us if it is equals to the spell being usable, 0 seconds left on the cooldown. We're going to click add a condition, same thing, spell cooldown, and this time we'll put in the second spell in our rotation that we want to check. In our case it was Crusader Strike. And then this is a small note, but it can mess things up. Make sure you click up here where it says and or. You want to make this or. And again, leave that at usable. And we just go on like this for as many spells as we had. Thankfully we only had 4 here. Again, making sure it's or. And there's also the brackets here, which you don't need to worry about. I haven't found a case where I need to use them. It'd probably be a lot simpler if I could figure out how these work exactly, but I just kind of go by what works. And lastly, exorcism. Or and usable. Okay, so that's all we need for this view. And here this should be functioning. So if we go, make sure it's enabled. If it's not working, make sure it's enabled. Always do that. And we'll click OK, and then type in TMW, TellMeWhen. So here's our rotation. So if we go and hit something, we'll see that alerts me when the next object or next spell that I put in is useful. And the reason that we put Holy Power check is it won't show Templar's Verdict unless we have enough Holy Power to use it. And then when nothing is usable, it'll be grayed out, and the next item, or the first item in the rotation will be shown. In our case, it was Templar's Verdict. So this is pretty good. Got a good start here. I'll get myself out of combat, and we can make a few more changes. Now this is kind of obnoxious if I'm just running around Orgrimmar, getting mail, or making circles in Dalaran, whatever it is. So we'll right click on it to bring up the options menu and go to group conditions. And we're going to add a unit attribute, and unit is in combat. And we'll make sure that the unit it's checking is player, and that is true. Okay, and we hit OK. Type TellMeWhen. So now it's gone until we get into combat, and then it'll show. So already we have a nice little, kind of rotation thing we got going. Next we'll do something that's reactive. In our case it was the Selfless Healer buff. So we'll we'll leave that there, and we'll type in, or right click on it to bring up group settings. We're going to add another group, and we'll make this one a 1x1 also. Let me just pull up my... Okay, so we've got our new object open. Right click on it and go to main. This time we want to check a buff or debuff, since it's in this upper right corner, which if you're not familiar with WoW, and I don't know why you'd be watching this if you were, that's where your buffs and debuffs are, by default at least. So we want to check buff. We're going to type in the name, Selfless Healer, and again, if you're not sure, just go with the first one. And we want to make sure that the units to watch is player. Basically, these are the things that you can check. So if you wanted to, and I don't know why you would, well, actually, if you wanted to purge someone or make sure when a flash of light is coming up, you could set it to target. So that way it would pop up if your target has as many stacks. But for now, we'll leave it at player. I'm not sure why there's 2. We'll make sure that buff is selected. Present. I don't want this to show up unless it's active. Just so that I make sure that it really pops when it happens, so I notice it right away. If you want, you can change that, of course. And now, instead of adding conditions for this one, we will come over here to stack requirements. And we're going to check both min and max, and make sure that's 3. And make sure you push enter for this to get it to save. Oops. Not 30. 30 stacks would take a while. And this opacity when failed is meaning when it's not reached the min or max. So if it's not 3, it would be opaque. It would have an opacity of whatever you set. I'm going to leave mine at 0. That's personal preference. And we're going to hit OK, and we're going to see how this works. The third buff, or the third stack of it pops up here. Now this is just me. I don't like seeing that 3 there. I mean, if it's there, I know it has 3 stacks. So what I do is I come over here and text displays for 2, where it says stacks hide 0. You don't have to worry about any of that. Just delete all of it. and that way it won't show the little 3. Now also, when I see this icon pop up, it doesn't immediately spring to mind that, okay, that's selfless healer, so I should use Flash of Light. What I like to do is add a spell that I actually want to use. So over here, custom texture, which you can use for anything, you can make that anything you want. So in this case, let's use Flash of Light. So in that case, it'll show up as Flash of Light and not the icon for selfless healer. So let's give this another run through and make sure that it works. And half of this add-on is just playing with the settings and getting it just right. I mean, you'll probably mess up your entire rotation a few times and you have to go back and either rewatch this video or just experiment. So here it is. Flash of Light popped up. We don't have the ugly 3 stacks, and it's actually the spell that we want to use. So that's all for this video. I'll probably do another segment of the same add-on showing maybe some different utility with one of my other characters. I do have 7 or 8 level 85s. I have no life. So stay tuned.